All right, I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another Monday morning tech chat show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I am your host, Juan Carlos Bagnell, also known as SomeGadgetGuy, which represents the SGG of this awfully, terribly named podcast series. The QA, of course, stands for question and answer, as I like to make this an interactive morning conversation about the top tech stories. I like to hold my podcast on a Monday, so it gives us the week. Maybe some breaking news happened over the weekend. We can kind of sort out our feelings on all the top tech news stories, and it gives us some time to follow up on stories as they develop over longer periods of time. If you're watching a podcast like mine or you're listening to a podcast like mine, it's because you like digging deeper than just reading the headlines. So, I'm already seeing a crazy awesome group in the live chat. Chatty Boy, Vazikos, Dave Burns, Gary the Fireman, Aditya Anil, Root Knight, Mr. M-Dub, Matt Tyler, JJ Pata, Mark, top of the subreddit, Northgraves, Alice Bockley. Yeah, this is a full crew. So I think we're going to have ourselves a phenomenal show this week. And Alice is just here for the leaf blowers, which I'm trying a different microphone today. Maybe that'll help minimize the impact of the leaf blowers, but it's an ongoing battle to see how we can not distract the host when all of that noise hits. Oh, Jaggy Horse is watching on the Periscopes. JMX Warrior just got here. Gadget Guy 2020 is present. Might I have some competition with guys who enjoy gadgets for my username? And Frankie Tech. All right. We've got a lot of news to cover, and I want to try something a little different for the second half of the podcast this week. I'm going to try something. It's going to be an experiment. We're going to do it in real time. I didn't really prep it, so this could be a catastrophe. It could be a real-time catastrophe, but I want to try. So I plugged a bunch of cables into a bunch of boxes this morning, and we'll see if I can do something a little different with the gadget block in the second half of the show. So first off, I think most importantly, I don't think he's in the live chat right now. So if he pops up into the live chat, or if someone catches him on some form of social media, I used to do a big thing where I would list the holidays of the day for each podcast. All those wacky holidays that we, like National Wear Your Favorite Jersey to the Dentist Day, stuff like that. Today, incredibly important. Everyone who sees him either in this live chat or over on social media, everyone needs to wish LFA Reviews a very happy birthday. I feel like that's the most important news topic of the day. So I want to start off the show just saying, my buddy, my boy, if you love your ears, you should be subscribed to his YouTube channel. Some of the best headphone reviews available on the internet. LFA Reviews. I don't know how old he's turning. Let's say he's turning 29. Sure. So his 29th birthday, LFA Reviews. From now on, we're all just 29 until we die. I feel like that's probably a better policy. I'm going to drink some water. My voice is shot. I've been recording so much, so I'm going to try and make it through this broadcast without too many futzy moments. And also, because I'm trying a different mic, I'm going to try not to hit you all with super ASMR drinking sounds. Tech Rant on the Periscope saying happy birthday to LFA. I don't think he's actually in the live chat, but DTNL, Jeff is still in his early 20s. My boy's 24, perpetually. I just wanted to kick off the show. I don't always do a lot of the, hey, my wife and I, we did this thing, we had a lot of fun. Especially in light of the situation that we find ourselves in globally. I've been trying to keep the show more focused on news and topics. I gotta say, the news stories this week were all kind of bummers. So we're gonna have a bit of a slog getting through the news, and I'm gonna try and fly through that so that we can do something a bit more fun in that second half. But my wife and I, we've been trying to do like date nights and movie nights. We did a special movie night for Lex where we popped popcorn and we got boxed candy, and my wife and I were drinking sodas. She had a collection of juice boxes. and we rented Scoob. So Scoob was pretty good. I gotta say, it was sort of like the Avengers Endgame of old school Hanna-Barbera cartoons, with little teasers in the end credits for what might be in future animated films. So we had a lot of fun with that. But we also sat down, and I never did get to see Star Wars Episode 9 when it was in theaters. And now it's on Disney Plus, and my wife saw it. Her job took her as like a team building exercise to go and watch Star Wars Episode 9. And obviously most of the movie's kind of been spoiled. But one thing really struck me as annoying. Dave Burns, you didn't miss much. Did you know Episode 9, more like Episode 9. A very angry German 9. Dave Burns, I'm sorry for your wife and your team. But again, watching it was like a bonding exercise, right? You know, even when you go through trauma together, it can bring a team closer together. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot of smack, and I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I have a lot of love for the original trilogy. I love some of the expanded universe novels that were all basically dumped and were no longer canon during this new incarnation of Star Wars. But for all of the major problems of the film, because there are significant problems with Episode 9, there was one thing that just perpetually bugged me through the whole movie. And it's such a small thing, but the movie moves at such a breakneck pace. There's no moment, right? 3PO does this, and then Rey does that, and then Finn has a joke, and then we're on the Falcon, and then we're off the Falcon, and then we're on the Falcon, and then we've got to find this thing, and this thing's going to take us to this thing, and this thing helps us find that thing. The thing that bothered me was the Millennium Falcon. You know, we're kind of wrapping up the series. There are a bunch of like misdirections and ooh, gotcha moments that don't mean anything. But I think the movie probably could have been 20 minutes shorter if the Falcon wasn't at once completely junky, constantly falling apart and crash landing in every single interaction that it has with the planet, and then at the same time also being the fastest, most maneuverable, best defended, most powerful fighter in the Rebel fleet. And we saw this time and time again. The movie starts off with the Falcon doing amazing things, and then it's falling apart when it lands. And then the Falcon has to go to another planet, and it's falling apart, and they have to find replacement parts. Then the Falcon does this incredible thing where they save all the people, and then it crash lands on a planet. And even in crash landing on a planet, it's repaired in like 2 minutes of screen time. And then at the end of the film, it's also leading the charge against Star Destroyers and blowing up cannons. And just like, there's no drama there. I'm having a hard time with that. From Steve Q3 Becker, the original trilogy, you mean the only trilogy. So Simon says, Hypno, the Millennium Falcon should be a plucky underdog of a ship, but in previous, incarnations of Star Wars, like looking back at, Empire Strikes Back. The movie starts off with the Falcon in kind of a state of disrepair, but then that kind of feeds into the plot, and then the Falcon goes to Cloud City, and it's kind of an indeterminable period of time for how long it takes to fix the Millennium Falcon. That's one complete plot cycle for the Millennium Falcon in one movie. That happens like 5 times in Episode 9. But anyway. We're not going to make this entire podcast about my gripes about a movie that everyone else saw months before me. Root Night 5. So my take of this conversation is that the Millennium Falcon was the main character of Episode 9. I'm pretty close. Yeah, actually, that's not too far off. Matt Tyler. Hey, the Falcon is our reminder that we're actually watching a Star Wars film. Ooh, Frankie Tech with a controversial take. Last Jedi was better. Oh, and Aditya Anil, maybe MYMHM should do a segment on, well, again, it was movies you may have missed. I'm not sure anyone missed it. whether you're a fan of it or you've been kind of hate watching the series, I'm pretty sure I'm like one of the last people on the planet to see this movie, like not having seen it before. So, yes. Bazikos 8. The movie tried to clean the mess of the previous movies, and I can't say they did a good job. I think they were in super dangerous territory when they start with J.J. Abrams. I don't know what a J.J. Abrams movie looks like. I know what J.J. Abrams doing Spielberg looks like, and we know what J.J. Abrams doing George Lucas looks like. But that's what J.J. Abrams started off with, was sort of an homage, a blueprint cut and paste from the original Star Wars. But then they gave the series to Rian Johnson. And I love Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson is one of my all-time, in the pantheon of filmmakers, he's like top 5 for me. One of my absolute favorite filmmakers, but he's a deconstructionist. He is going to take an established genre and he's going to dissect it and take it apart at the molecular level and twist up the conventions that make it popular. Fans of a series tend not to like that kind of analysis from an outsider. So your middle film completely dissects Star Wars, down to chucking the lightsaber and Luke acting weird and strange, just like Yoda acted weird and strange in Empire Strikes Back. All of these things, but then you go back to J.J. Abrams. And so J.J. Abrams doesn't have anything to work with to put all of the familiar stuff back together again because Rian Johnson sliced it all apart. That is that's a terrible series of directors. J.J. to Rian to J.J. Ooh, not good. So we should probably jump into some housekeeping. But that was my weekend. We had a lovely movie watching weekend. So with LFA Review's birthday being the major holiday for this Monday, I hope you all were able to celebrate LFA Review's birthday with some kind of movie watching or music listening. Since he's a headphone reviewer, let's say music listening is the appropriate protocol for celebrating LFA Review's birthday. All right. Let's get into some housekeeping. I'm going to fly through these. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on every single one. I had a busy week. Oh, shoot. I forgot to pull up. There's one other that I need to pull up for housekeeping. I can't type fast enough. I'm only on a half a cup of coffee. That was a bad plan on my part. No, where'd it go? I lost this link. Trying to get it back. Here we go. Okay. Housekeeping. Screen sharing. A lot of stuff went up last week, and I've got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe. If you've been following me on social media, you might have caught a tweet last night where I talked about how many people I've been muting over on my YouTube channel. Yesterday alone was 17. 17 very toxic individuals. Now, I am not muting people if they disagree with me, if they're calling some of my review practices into question, if they're trying to make these videos better. Like, you'll read through the comments. Plenty of people don't like what I have to say. What I'm talking about are extremely toxic and argumentative people that fight with each other in the comments of my videos. I'm trying to clean that up. I would like, even on YouTube, which is like I don't know, it's a losing battle, fighting toxicity on YouTube. I've been trying to clean it up. This first part of the housekeeping is actually, yes, this does count for housekeeping. This first part of the housekeeping is actually one of the videos that was contributing to that count more than anything else. Apparently, you're not allowed to say nice things about OnePlus these days without angry nerds freaking out about what you're trying to compliment them on. So I put out this video, OnePlus 8 and value, quote, OnePlus has lost their way, exclamation mark, end quote. And these are my thoughts on the value proposition and some of the angriest commentary from people that are trying to forget how OnePlus built their business and what makes OnePlus kind of a special brand. And instead, they're only fixated on sort of the most obnoxious, oh, OnePlus used to be $399 and it used to be like 90% of the phone for like half the price, man. So that's never really been true. I put out a video editorial on this. The comments on this have been some of the worst weeding I've had to do on YouTube in a really long time. Did you know that if you compare a Xiaomi that's relegated to the Indian market, you can find a phone that's like $50 cheaper than a OnePlus 8, than a base model OnePlus 8, and because of that, that means that no phone in the United States should be as expensive as it is. I've been getting a ton of those comments from people that don't understand tech nearly as well as they think they do. Oh, so what you're saying is OnePlus is like having to do this thing. So why are you apologizing for OnePlus being greedy? And you're like, I can't work with that. You don't even understand what you're talking about. So I'm going to bid you a fond farewell. Simon says, Hypno, the Mi 10 Pro is one of my favorite ones to bring up. We're flipping out about price increases from OnePlus 7 to OnePlus 8. The Mi 9 Pro, I used to be able to find for like $400, and now it's also a $1,000 phone. But they're complaining about me saying Qualcomm is jacking up component prices. Oh, prove that. Where can you find component prices? How do you know that that's the problem? Oof, man. Yeah, some angry geeks. Moving right along. TCL 10 Pro, By the Benchmarks. The second installment of By the Benchmarks. If you want me to keep performance testing, these videos are going to need a little help. So if you're of the mind where you might share or support or help these types of videos out, I'm trying to actually share all of my real world testing that goes into these phones when I'm doing video rendering, stabilization, I'm doing RAR compression. I want to get a more real world but still high performance view of what a phone can do. That's going to be this series. So these videos probably won't perform super well because people don't seem to care about that stuff. Then we also had another installment of Creator Chat where I sat down with Viper, the captain of Team Apple. And we had a really frank conversation about what it's like to be trying to build a smaller YouTube channel in the year 2020. Actually, Vipe was pretty candid about some of his issues with YouTube, the algorithm, and like monetization on his channel, how he got restricted. And, you know, I can't point to another creator who's doing everything right. He's got such an interesting brand. He's got such a high energy take on tech. And the YouTube algorithm is actively getting in his way to build and to grow as a content creator. So let me get this out of the way here. And moving right along, we also did a budget battle comparison between the iPhone SE and the TCL 10 Pro. Funnily enough, this video, the comments were actually relatively benign. I would have thought that an Android versus iPhone fight, I mean, you got a lot of fanboys in there, but they weren't insulting each other. They were just mostly saying I picked the wrong two phones to compare. And then I also put out just sort of a call to action, OnePlus 8 versus 8 Pro versus LG V60. How do I do this? I want to do a good targeted comparison between the OnePlus 8s and the LG V60. So I've got a video out there. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You know, I'm just sort of describing what my challenges are in trying to make a good, targeted, but still somewhat comprehensive comparison between these two companies. And it's really tricky. LG has a very modular phone that starts at a lower price, but then if I start comparing it up against a OnePlus 8 Pro, that raises the price. So if I raise the price, I should start factoring in the accessories I can use with the LG V60. But if I'm factoring in accessories, shouldn't I also be giving some consideration to accessories on a OnePlus 8 or a OnePlus 8 Pro? It's a mess. It's a very good problem to have because I'm actually very excited about both of these companies and both of these phones this year, but I'm not sure how to make that into a video. So if you've got some thoughts, share them in the comments, and I would love to get some. Help. Can always use more help as a gadget reviewer. Gary the Fireman, the YouTube algorithm is the Phantom Menace. Oh, and Tech Lovin' Mama's in the live chat. Everyone say, hey, Tech Lovin' Mama. Matt Tyler wants more Gangsta Juan. I'm going to be very, very, sort of very specific about when I use that character. I can't pull him out all the time. And, oh, lastly, so one last bit of housekeeping. Let me get this out of the way here. I'm always honored. I'm always thrilled. It's such a fun guest spot for me when I get to join the folks over at All About Android, episode 472. And we started the show off with an interview with one of the project leads for the new YouTube Music app. So we got some decent insight as to what's going on with YouTube Music. A lot of the stories about YouTube Music that came out after this podcast came from us doing this podcast. But I need to come down to the poll. So if you go to twit.to/AAA472. Oh, no, that's the show notes. I need twit.to/AAA poll472. I need you all to vote for Just Boggle. Just Boggle is the app you want to vote for. Trust me, this app is the best. So I'm going to vote for it now. I actually saved my vote until I had the chance to come here and show you on this right now. But again, if you needed more podcasting and more conversation from me, there's a fun altercation between me and Ron Richards about how he's using cabled earbuds while he's talking about how the Courage port should be killed, which I think is always kind of fun and ironic to point out when someone is literally using cabled headphones on a 3.5 millimeter plug while they're advocating for the 3.5 millimeter plug to be removed from gadgets. So Courage port was a fun back and forth. Also, apparently he's just really bad at Chromecasting. He was describing problems with Chromecasts that I don't think I've seen anyone else encounter. So it was a fun podcast. But yes, Just Boggle. Go hit that poll. The guests need your help on the All About Android podcast. So even if you don't listen to the show, go vote in the poll. And that's going to wrap us up for housekeeping. That was a lot. There's so much stuff that's coming out, and I've got a bunch of video projects on my desk. And I mean, what was that? That's 3 podcasts and 4 videos in 6 days. I did 3 podcasts and 4 videos in 6 days. And not all of them were short videos. So why don't we get into some news? So here, what was it? From Aditya, no, Boggle is fun. I enjoyed the quick game on the state of the Patreon. Maybe next week we should plan some kind of like part game live stream. So while I'm running the podcast, the commentary, we can also maybe play a game together or something like that. And if we do something like Just Boggle, which is ad-free, is totally free to download, has no in-app purchases or microtransactions, no ads that stop your game, no paywalls, nothing. When they say it's Just Boggle, it literally is just Boggle. And I really love their multiplayer, the way that they do multiplayer. So let me get this out of the way here. We're going to kick into some news. Like I said, news block is kind of a bummer this week. So I'm going to try and keep this mostly to follow-ups, and I'm going to try and move through news fairly quickly too. Dave Burns, wait, you're not going to play Raid Shadow Legends with us? Okay, how about this? If we do some other type of game, because again, when I'm playing the game, I can't talk, and when I talk, I can't play the game. But maybe we could plan an off podcast. I really been trying to get into, what is it, Battlelands Royale. It's a top-down twin-stick shooter battle royale game. And I think that could be kind of a fun, I'm not the biggest fan of third-person or first-person shooter battle royale titles, but, isometric twin-stick shooter, yeah. Arcadey, let's do some arcade. Let me get this out of the way here. Gadget Guy 2020, quick. Google Play Music or YouTube Music. it's kind of irrelevant. I mean, Google Play Music is going to be completely end of lifed soon. So you might as well start using YouTube Music, but I use USB Audio Player Pro when I'm not on an LG. For an LG, the LG Music app is the best. It's awesome. But when I'm not, then I'm on another third party. Or, I mean, I'll also throw a playlist into something like VLC. So there you go. Gary the Fireman. How do they do it for free? It boggles the mind. Wah, wah. But yeah, I mean, if you want more insight on Google Play Music versus YouTube Music, go catch that All About Android podcast, because you actually hear it from the Google's mouth, the horse's mouth, like from the source. So, oh, Power Amp from Punch Kun. I don't know, Kun or Kun. Power Amp is also a very good music player. Okay. Getting into the news block, I added like 3 minutes before we got into news. These are mostly follow-ups to stories that we've been tracking for a while. One of the most critical news stories that we've seen through social media and traditional news outlets is what to do about the spread of misinformation. How do we walk people away from terrible conspiracy theories and sort of a toxic anti-science kind of climate? It's cute and it's charming when it's flat earthers and we can kind of mock them. It gets a lot more disruptive when we start talking about the situation that we find ourselves in today and things like 5G conspiracy theories. So we've been looking at different social media outlets' responses, and Twitter recently announced their plan. When was this? On May 11th, so literally about a week ago. It was after I finished up the podcast last week. And I'm going to file this under, I'll believe it when I see it, but I don't believe you. So this is an article coming by way of CNN Business, written up by Donnie O'Sullivan. Twitter says it will label misleading situation tweets, even if they're from Trump. Twitter announced in March that it would remove situation tweets that could cause a, quote, direct risk to people's health or well-being. Starting Monday, it will use labels and warning messages to, quote, provide additional explanations or clarifications in situations where the risks of harm associated with the tweet are less severe, but where people may still be confused or misled by the content. And they, as part of this, they announced that no one is immune from this misleading tweet banner, including the President of the United States. I don't know about y'all, but President Trump tweets often make it into my Twitter timeline. I don't believe I've seen any special notification on any of his tweets. So whenever that might happen, I'll be curious to see how it's implemented. But at least this coincides with the story we talked about, I want to say it was 3 weeks ago, where when social media articles are labeled as potentially misleading or unverified, or that there's some additional notification near the headline of that article, that it does have something of a chilling effect on how that story is spread through social media. So I would assume psychologically that there would be a similar component for something like Twitter as well. If the information in a tweet is somehow unverified or kind of contrary to scientific evaluation, then hopefully that has some kind of an effect on how that message is spread virally. But we'll have to see if they actually do it. So, like I said at the top of this news story, I'll believe it when I see it. So Sam is apparently having issues doing the typing in the live chat, and people are right to make fun of Sam. Everyone say, hey, Sam, you had a great show on Sunday with LFA. Had a lot of fun watching your stream. So if you're going a little crazy in my live chat, I guess that's okay. Following up another story. We spoke recently about Elon Musk trying to call out local governments in California regarding the shutdown orders and the sort of quarantine at home recommendations. We got news that we're probably going to be in for an extended stay for quarantining at home, this social distancing experiment, where it will probably take us through most of the summer. Now, this is not a mandatory stay-at-home order. It's a looser guideline with some stricter application or policy regarding things like wearing masks. All right, we get that. But Elon Musk is fighting Alameda County on his Tesla factory still being shut down. So there's talk of him leaving California and he's going to go set up a new factory in Texas because they know how to treat businesses right. And I brought up the point that doing business in California means you are operating in one of the world's largest economies, in the state of California. And that Tesla only became the success that it was through the business relationships that they had with the local government here in California, the subsidies, the tax breaks, all of the benefits that Tesla received here. So something tells me if someone makes a lot of noise about kind of thumbing shoving their thumb in the eye, bad metaphor. That didn't work. But if they were making a lot of noise talking about how poorly they were being treated in California, that the California government would likely not want to continue supporting or subsidizing that individual. So here's what kind of sucks, is that this is not a story about Tesla. This is a story about SpaceX. So with Elon Musk kind of biting the hand that fed him, that's the metaphor I was going for. This is a Reuters feed written up by DeJoey Roulette. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Sorry, DeJoey. California officials reject subsidies for Musk's SpaceX over Tesla spat. A California state panel on Friday rejected a request from Elon Musk's SpaceX for $655,000 in state job and training funds, citing the chief executive's recent threats to move Tesla, the electric car maker that he also runs, out of the state. The snub comes as Musk has sparred with officials in Alameda County over his plans to resume production at the Tesla plant there, which has stopped because of the situation. 5 members of California's employment training panel voted to reject the proposal and 2 voted for it, with 1 member absent. After discussing Musk's tweets on Tesla's reopening and media reports of layoffs at SpaceX's Hawthorne, California headquarters in recent years. Quote, hold on, let me get this here. Quote, in my opinion, given the recent threats of the CEO to leave the state of California and everything else we've discussed today, this proposal does not rise to the level for me to feel secure in supporting it, said Gretchen Newsom, a panel member and the political director of an IBEW, Electrical Workers Union panel. So even though they're different companies, this is kind of the point I was making. These multi-billion-dollar industries don't just pop up. It's not like Elon Musk said, here's all of my money, start this business. No, you go to state governments and you get tax breaks and you get subsidies and you get land grants and you try and work this systems because you're promising jobs. So if you're going to start talking about removing jobs from the area that supported you coming up, and that all of the burden on that was kind of placed, not all of the burden, but a significant chunk of that burden was placed on taxpayers, that's going to start having an effect on your sort of holistic brand. The Musk brand is going to start affecting battery manufacturing, solar panel manufacturing, space research. And also, I mean, the talent here in California is pretty good if you're talking about launching rockets into space. So I feel like Elon Musk is this amazing cult of personality. He's this, do it and then ask for forgiveness, devil may cry kind of, where tears shed. I'm really losing it on idioms and sayings today. That's amazing. You need kind of a disruptor in that creation space, in that mad inventor kind of space. I think he's a terrible CEO. I think he is awful at actually playing the political game to represent his company. And this is a pretty good example of how being really loud and obnoxious in one area can start to have effects in other areas of your business. Root Night 5. Wait, are you telling me I can't pull myself up by my bootstraps and hard work myself into owning a multi-billion-dollar corporation? I mean, you technically could. It's just, I feel like the deck is pretty harshly stacked against that being in any way somewhat accessible. From Dave Burns, I think this whole situation is just accelerating the process of Tesla and SpaceX to Texas for lower taxes because Texas does have some of this infrastructure pre-built. And if Tesla and SpaceX choose to do business in Texas over California, I feel like that's fine. I don't see how that's going to be any cheaper, though. You know, what about having the Tesla manufacturing plant shut down for an additional couple weeks is going to be rectified by investing in a manufacturing system and a rocket launching system in Texas? So again, this is all coming across pretty petty, you know, unless the arguments are also things like regulations and that Tesla can do business in ways that are bad for consumers or bad for employees because it's cheaper, then I guess that's better for doing business in Texas. But I don't think that's Texas's beat either. But lower taxes isn't just, you know, a thing. If you pay higher taxes in California, you also have more of an infrastructure to request money from the state of California, which now SpaceX doesn't get $600,000 that they were requesting, taxpayer funds that SpaceX wanted out of the state of California because of Elon Musk. Had Elon Musk not gone on this tear, this would not have been a story, and SpaceX would have gotten additional training funds on top of probably billions of dollars of taxpayer monies that have actually gone into building up SpaceX as a company. So remember, taxpayer dollars, not Elon Musk's dollars. Moving right along, this is another follow-up to a story that I'm severely disappointed in the state of technology. Today I'm going to take a sip of water. Apologies for the ASMR. Simon says, hypno, corporate feudalism. All right. Y'all remember iPhone batteries? I remember iPhone batteries. Remember how Apple throttled iPhones without telling consumers that they were purposefully slowing their phones down because they put in inadequately sized batteries into iPhones? I remember. Well, we caught word that the lawsuit against Apple was going to be settled, and Apple's really going to learn their lesson for reals this time because they're going to have to pay $500 million. $500 million. In fact, in the time that it takes me to pause and come back to this podcast, Apple probably just made $500 million. We're almost done with this kangaroo court of a penalty, punitive action. You know, the billions and billions Apple made in slowing down people's phones to encourage them to upgrade sooner than they needed to. $500 million. The deal gets a nod, but situation delays the final okay. This is coming by law360.com, written up by Dorothy Atkins. California federal judge on Friday preliminarily approved Apple's $500 million deal to end multi-district litigation accusing the company of releasing software updates that slowed down the performance of certain iPhones, but extended the final approval deadlines in light of this situation. So we probably won't be seeing anyone affected by this, which is literally anyone who's owned an iPhone since the iPhone 4S, I believe. We're going to be waiting on payouts. I had the part of the article highlighted and then I went and clicked on the page. So they're tracking it all the way back to this class action actually takes it back to the iPhone 6. There's a 55-page objection to this where I feel like Apple it's silly to continue dragging this out because it's a bad look for Apple, and it keeps negatively bringing the company back up into the conversation. But it seems like anyone affected by this is likely not going to be receiving a payout until sometime well into 2021. And by the time we factor in lawyers' fees and all of the other costs that go into extracting value out of a class action lawsuit, I don't know, people might get like $10. Sorry you had to go and buy a new $800 phone. Here, you can't supersize at McDonald's, but here's some cash. That's kind of what we're going to wrap this up with. Completely insufficient. Wholly insufficient. This is one of the most reprehensible business practices from a company that has been aggressively stanced against right to repair legislation. They have fought to make their products end of life permanent. You know, you go to the Apple support pages and they talk about, you know, sunsetting a product and then end of lifing it. And then once a product's like 4 years old, you know, Apple employees will refuse to service that product when you go into an Apple store. The only thing we can do is sell you a new product because your computer's 5 years old now. So I feel like they probably should have gotten stung just a little bit harder. But, you know, again, they can factor that into their financials Q1 of 2021, and it will barely register as a percentage of the, not even the revenue, of the profit that they're going to make that fiscal quarter, especially with how decent the iPhone SE seems to be performing. Root Knife 5, hey, that $10 litigation payout might get you a headphone dongle. Now, don't tell Ron Richards because he doesn't believe there should be any more Courage ports. So that $10 Courage port needs to go. So Gabaletta brings up a point. We need to start working on better battery technology rather than keep putting bigger batteries to mitigate wear and shorter lifespan that we face today. And that's actually one of the things you get with better battery technologies is a bigger storage density in a smaller space. I mean, that is how you improve battery technology. The problem is consumers. I did a video on this like 5 or 6 years ago. It was before I joined Pocket Now. And everyone complaining about battery life and you should just put bigger batteries into phones. And the problem is normalizing that. As soon as you have a better battery technology or a bigger battery in a phone, people don't keep using the phone like they had a smaller battery. They use their phone more aggressively or they use it more often. And so then it still feels like they've got terrible battery life. This has really been brought to light with the iPhone SE. I think nothing of leaving a TCL 10 Pro out, an LG V60, my OnePluses. I'm down to like 20% battery, I think, on my OnePlus 8, and I left it overnight. I didn't need to charge it. I remember my iPhone SE was somewhere around like 18 or 19% battery life on Friday, and I forgot to plug it in, and it was totally dead this morning. No use, not with a SIM card in it, only connected to Wi-Fi, screen didn't turn on, you know, like 2 days of doing nothing, and I woke up to a dead iPhone. I can't fully convey, I can't fully describe how much of a step back that feels. So even knowing that this phone is crazy baller powerful because of A13 Bionic, that battery is a big stumbling block for that phone, even at $400. So Simon says, Hypno, I prefer a heavier phone. Too light, and I fear they'll slip out of my hand. Moving right along. Again, not a bummer of a story, but just like, let's add this to the list of things that we're going to have to keep an eye on. Wall Street Journal originally broke this story, but I'm tracking this off of Bloomberg too. Let me go back into screen share here. David McLaughlin wrote this up for Bloomberg. Google's dominance of the, The title is Google Antitrust Roadmap Heads to DOJ with U.S. Suit Looming. We are right on the heels of an antitrust lawsuit, antitrust action being brought up by the Department of Justice. Google's dominance of the $130 billion digital advertising market is harming advertisers, news publishers, and consumers, according to a paper that outlines how the U.S. could bring an antitrust case against the internet giant. I want to get to this quote. Here we go. What we can see is troubling and concerning, said Fiona Scott Morton, a Yale University economist and one of the authors of the paper. Quote, there's a lot of public evidence that suggests anti-competitive conduct and significant harm to consumers and competition. We've been going through similar actions, how Google has handled Android and how they've positioned their products in the EU. This would actually be a pretty big shot here in the United States. We went through the Senate hearings where Sundar Pichai testified before a committee. Then we saw a lot of action in the European Union, and then it kind of chilled. Like, it kind of cooled off for a little while. So coming back into a public state like this, where we're seeing potential action filed from the DOJ, could be really interesting. I think a lot of people are feeling like certain monster data tech corporations like Google, Amazon, Facebook operate in a completely untouchable space because of their relationships with policymakers. So if we want to start course correcting on some of these situations that we find ourselves in, like say the spread of misinformation, potential issues with censorship, anti-competitive behavior in advertising, positioning your products in a way where people can't compete on various platforms, then we actually need to start digging into how these mega corporations do business with their other corporate customers and then the individual end users that use their products and their devices. Simon says, Hypno, the FCC chairman is a crook. The nice thing is this is going through the Department of Justice and not the FCC. So that means there's potential to actually see some kind of outcome. I'd be a little worried that the DOJ under this administration is probably going to be acting on this out of political concerns that I probably don't completely agree with, but it is part of a conversation that we need to start having. We don't know how to regulate mega corporations, mega data corporations in the modern age. Our regulatory agencies and commissions are horrifically unequipped to do battle with trillion-dollar companies. This is going to be a very long-term, baby step by baby step by baby step redirection just to start defining what is our relationship with these companies and what parameters should we grade how they do business. Because we can't even do that today. Especially our lawmakers, our policymakers today, completely inadequate at defining the rules of the game. This is going to be a mess. It's going to get way worse before it gets better. So, that's most of the news block. I want to take a break here for just a second. Flying through this week's podcast. Flying through it. Did LFA join the live chat? I see people wishing LFA happy birthday. LFA, if you're here, we're all wishing you a happy birthday. This is your birthday podcast. You're not even here. Come on, man. There he is. Woo! Happy birthday, LFA. Feliz cumpleaños a ti. Okay, this is the part of the show where we're going to take a quick break to talk about my subreddit. Subreddits are really cool things. Every podcast has a subreddit. LFA Reviews is regularly featured on my subreddit, even when it's not his birthday, even when it's just a regular day for him. Oh, LFA, you missed it too. We've determined that your birthday is a national holiday. Today is National LFA Reviews Birthday Day, and that the accepted celebration of that birthday is to use your nicest headphones to listen to your favorite song. So every year, that's what everyone needs to do on your birthday day. and that's how you celebrate. Dia de los Muertos is papeles picados and, like marigolds and stuff. LFA Reviews is big, comfy headphones and your absolute favorite song. Just wanted to let you know we've decided how your birthday is going to be celebrated. Moving right along. LFA Day. I like that. Hashtag LFA Day. LFA. Especially being New Mexican and the weird lilt that New Mexicans have for their Spanglish. LFA. Okay. Every podcast has a subreddit. Some subreddits are about sharing news stories. Some subreddits are cool fan hangout spots. Some subreddits are just there to tell the hosts how cool they are. My subreddit is continuing to lead a charge in trying to help support content creators, especially those content creators that fans think deserve more attention. I'm not saying you have to go and listen to another hour of my podcasting, but that interview with Viper was really enlightening for someone like me. I came up in the YouTube game with a completely different rule book on how to start monetizing and building a channel on YouTube. And now listening to Viper's experiences, completely different game. And he is having to jump through way more hoops. He is having to satisfy way more algorithm nonsense. And his channel is still actively being harmed by YouTube's automated policies. My channel gets it pretty bad. His channel, I don't know that he's broken 4,000 subscribers yet. And here's someone who for the last couple of years has been interviewing the top names in tech reviewing, has built a loyal following, a fan base that is ride or die for Viper content. He's doing everything right. And after several years, he still is yet to break 4,000 subs because of YouTube's policy. I cannot point to someone who really, Matt Tyler. See, I haven't gotten my silver play button yet. Again, I'm at 111,000 subscribers. YouTube's not going to send that to me. At this point, I've given up. Why? Why pretend that I'm doing some game for YouTube when the whole point of this was community building and actually reaching out to people that I cared to have conversations with? Patting myself on the back for a YouTube silver play button at this point, in everything that YouTube does to get in the way of a content creator's audience, not fun. Not fun. So why don't we use some social media constructs to try and improve the situation for people who are putting out good content, like my man Vipe, like LFA Reviews, like Tech Rant, like these folks that are genuinely putting in the effort, the energy, they're doing the work, but for some reason they're just not lighting up the algorithm. So I started a subreddit. Frankie Tech, all YouTube cares about is early reviews. The faster you are, the higher your views get. It's sad but true. Again, it's all tempo. As soon as if it's a trending topic, then you're popular, then you are successful. And that's all you're allowed to talk about, or your channel is actively harmed in search rankings as far as I can tell. So, So I started a subreddit a couple years back, and over the last 2 years, I've really been trying to put more energy behind it. Every week, we find more members, more subscribers to the subreddit. We're getting new videos being shared from content creators that I've never heard of before, and we're starting to get people using it as a way to write articles. The number one story on this is someone sharing their own personal thoughts, just written as an article post, top submission for this week. So if you go to reddit.com/r/glowingrectangles, I guarantee you're going to see some fresh content, a broader, more diverse collection of YouTube creators than what YouTube is going to serve up for you. And these are the top stories on Glowing Rectangles this week. Number one with the bullet, I don't know if he's still in the live chat, but my man Mark Northgraves wrote an article called My Side of Tech. He talks about the last 7 or 8 years of working in tech retail, selling gadgets and IoT and audio equipment and smartphones, and his experiences working with customers, and how the review game has changed up and how people are kind of being left behind. There's sort of an entrenched popularity for certain brands. And when people go into a store, they're probably not looking to be educated anymore because they know what they've used and they know what they like. And so they're just sort of on a continuing cycle, sort of an echo chamber of familiarity. It's a great write-up. It was recently, they also brought it up in another live stream, and I can't remember who did. It's on a channel called TED Talks, which is kind of an unfortunate YouTube channel for someone starting out. But they with the who is it, the Mobile Geezer? God, I'm spacing so hard on people that I'm subscribed to. This is very embarrassing for me trying to talk about different communities and creators who need more attention. Anyway, they brought this up in their live stream too from our subreddit. Again, we're building a little ecosystem of mutual support and appreciation for people that deserve more attention. Mark Northgrave's article is awesome. It's a great write-up of his experiences. I would really appreciate it if you checked it out. So, oh, and he's waving in the live chat. Excellent. From Jim72165, I finally subscribed this week. Nice. Very nice. Moving right along on the subreddit, second place, some dude with a punchable face complaining about how expensive OnePluses are. He's probably some dopey shill for another brand. I hate that guy. But he made it to the number 2 spot. But number 3, number 3 and 4, TCL 10 Pro videos coming from Trenton Marshall and Viper. 2 folks that have done a lot of great, insightful tech commentary. People who like to dig a little deeper and like to buck some of the conventional thinking around gadgets. I enjoy both of these channels. Both of these guys taking a look at the TCL 10 Pro. And again, I think they both have some very interesting pros and cons for a device that's purposely launching. It's purpose-built to launch at around $450 in the United States. And then number 4, ANC Pro. One more dual driver. First look video from LFA Reviews. Bum, bum, bum. One of my favorite audio brands. I've really been loving the work that One More has done. Coming by way of one of my favorite headphone reviewers, LFA Reviews, taking a great look at what's going on with a refresh to a neckband Bluetooth audio solution. And then just rounding out the rest of Glowing Rectangles, we've got Nothing But Tech, MBTY88, looking at the iPhone SE. Another TCL video from Trenton Marshall. My call to action for the OnePlus versus LG video. Keeping It Real, episode 4, featuring LFA Reviews from Iconic Mods. I need to subscribe to this. Why aren't I subscribed? A channel with less than 500 subscribers interviewing LFA. TCL's coming for you, coming by way of Painfully Honest Tech. And What's on My iPhone 11 Pro from Jackson Hayes. And rounding out the, I'm probably past the top 10 at this point, but rounding out the top stories of the last week, my list of the best cheap Android phones for 2020 from Gadget. Gadget, an incredible channel that just recently broke 200,000 subscribers, probably totally because of them regularly being featured on Glowing Rectangles. We have like 800 members now on my subreddit. So that's probably what pushed them over the edge to break 200,000 subscribers. Their channel's awesome. I love Gadget. So reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. Now more than ever, content creators need your support. And that's more than just passively watching a video and shrugging to yourself and thinking, man, I hope they make another video. That was neat. We're at 826 members on the subreddit. And I feel like we should try and do something special for 1,000. So when we break 1,000 members on our Glowing Rectangles, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What should we do? I don't want to just do some gimmicky giveaway and then we get a bunch more members that aren't really going to participate, but I want to celebrate and kind of reward the people that have been participating and supporting content creators who deserve more attention. So drop me some thoughts on social media, on the blog post for this podcast, the show notes that'll go live, something like that. Fat Produce, Zoom dance party at 1,000 members. That might happen. I mean, again, I want to do something to reward the people on the subreddit too, but in addition to that, I might also punish them by hosting a Zoom dance party. Reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. Tell them Juan sent you. Share some good content, even if it's content you made yourself. But come and participate. We need a diverse collection of voices in the tech industry. We need people commenting on these stories. We need your upvotes so that these posts become more popular and are shared more on Reddit as a platform. And all of that goes hand in hand in really blowing up a channel for someone on YouTube. I'll tell you every week, when people see that their content's being shared like this, it's more appreciated than you will ever know. So, Matt Tyler, Silver Play Button Celebration Day. Man, you're just like twisting that knife that YouTube does not like me. I get it. 11 reviews. I'm currently shopping for play buttons on Etsy. Ugh. Actually, Andrew, Fat Produce, sent me a play button that I might have to do an unboxing on. It took me a while to go and pick it up from my office mail drop, but I finally have it in-house. So yeah. Maybe that'll be my play button unboxing video. So moving right along. We're getting into the gadget block, and I'm going to try and blow through these. We've got just a couple stories here that I want to highlight and I want to talk about. This first one was a little concerning to me because I've seen conflicting reports on the impact of this kind of technology. I personally thought that what this company was doing was a little bit safer. So now I'm going to have to try and walk back, analyze, and maybe re-advise on some of my previous smartphone commentary, some of my previous videos. This is coming by way of Giz China. It's a story about Oppo, written up by Abdullah. Oppo warns that 40-watt fast charging degrades the smartphone battery. In April, Oppo launched the Ace 2 smartphone with a Snapdragon 865, 90Hz screen, and an in-screen fingerprint sensor. The phone has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery and supports 65-watt wired fast charging and 40-watt wireless charging. With these fast charging technologies, Oppo has taken its charging technology to the next level. However, it's not absolute perfection. In fact, Oppo claims that its 40-watt fast charging technology affects battery life by 70% with the same charging cycle. 15-watt charging will reduce less with 90% life expectancy. This is a tweet. Oppo outright confirmed to us that their 40-watt charging degrades to 70% capacity in the same cycles. 15-watt would to 90%. It's all a crock of marketing race seeking to have the biggest numbers. So, yeah. I kind of feel like, so let me just reset that. I tried to deliver 3 sentences with different endpoints all at the same time, and my brain kind of kinked up there. I've got the OnePlus fast wireless charger. I was really hoping that being a more proprietary solution would maybe be a safer implementation of wireless charging. It would seem to me that any type of wireless charging and faster wireless charging is likely going to have the same pitfalls. Wireless charging in general is going to degrade your battery faster than wired charging, and fast wireless charging will do that significantly faster than slower wireless charging. So I'm going to kind of reiterate, and I'm going to try and reposition this. Even with a proprietary version of wireless charging, this is not safer, and this will degrade your battery faster than a technology that already degrades your battery faster than cabled charging. And that's a bit of a bummer, because we're looking at these things that, like, there's a convenience, sure. There's an argument there. Will some consumers even see the effects of this if they're flipping their phone every other year? So if you keep your phone for 2 years, we're coming to the end of these charge cycles. Is that really going to be such a huge deal? But increasingly, I see consumers trying to hold on to their phones longer, and prices are skyrocketing on especially at the top tier of the smartphone segment. And I feel like making a phone completely sealed up, making it exceedingly difficult to replace the battery of a phone, and then popularizing a tech like wireless charging is kind of a bad look. I think that's kind of an unfortunate happenstance for consumerism in encouraging, just like I did with the story that we talked about with Apple for battery throttling. They would throttle the CPU when the battery would start to wear on their tiny anemic phones. Same thing here. This business practice needs to be called into question when we already have enormous problems with repairability and with e-waste. So, and from burn notice, I can't imagine how hot the phone would get. I'm still kind of testing the OnePlus charger. I want to see, like, if I put it just slightly off, does that change internal thermals to any great degree? And it takes a long time to test that stuff because I really want to give it sort of a fair and consistent comparison. Now, it's not really fair if, like, I run the phone crazy hot to drain the battery and then put it right on a charger. It's like every test needs its own full day to complete. Ugh, not great. Matt Tyler, I like Sony's approach to charging. There's now adaptive charging on LGs. There's I haven't tried it yet either, but the OnePluses also have some kind of battery manipulation charging program that I need to see what it does. Like, is it like super fast charging and then you can slow it down at a certain time? Or is it just like, hey, you can just turn off fast charging and slow charge regardless of what you're plugged into? And I'm not quite sure what the right answer there is. Sorry, a little tickle in the back of my throat there. I'm bringing up this story as a follow-up to, we talked about Xiaomi and how Xiaomi finally backpedaled on sending all of your user data up to Chinese servers, even when you were in incognito mode. And I'm bringing this story up not because there was any new news, but because this is a good example of some of the toxicity that, like, I've been facing talking about OnePlus. I'm going to make the story about me. It's all about me. This was published on Android Authority, and it's a write-up from Susanna Dalul. Let me get this down here. Susanna, this is an opinion piece called "Is Selling Your Privacy for a Cheaper Phone Really a Good Idea?" And so Susanna lays out an argument that in light of Xiaomi's recent business practices in how they collect your user data, how they collect your user data even when you were trying to use a privacy mode, a major part of why Xiaomi's phones are often sold at lower costs is because services make up the other part of the financial equation. Xiaomi's services market is pretty robust, that software and sales side. And so she goes through to talk about the data that Xiaomi collects, and she makes an argument that even if you don't feel like you've got something to hide, there are probably things that you don't want other people to have access to or to know about you. Like if you have, searches on medical conditions. Actually, in today's day and age, I would prefer that corporations don't have access to private medical data. Insurance companies might change policies here in the United States if they could have access to my private medical data. We've been fighting those kinds of privacy battles here in California to varying degrees of success. So she's putting this out there as a question. The comments on this article are exactly the same kind of whataboutism and toxicity that I face whenever you try and buck any kind of conventional wisdom on a topic that tech people really aren't as savvy about as they think they are. Comments like, name a company that doesn't use your data. The article isn't Xiaomi is the only company selling off your data, so they need to be punished. The article is looking at a very specific aspect of Xiaomi's business model and why that might affect a global population that are using this phone brand, and it's a fairly popular phone brand around the world. That doesn't let Google or Amazon or Microsoft or even Apple off the hook for their data collection policies. But if we change the subject with a whataboutism, then we're not really talking about Xiaomi anymore, and that you can kind of normalize what's actually a pretty terrible policy. Because everyone's doing it. All companies are the same. Another comment, if you like privacy, don't use the internet. That's helpful. That's a good one. I like that. That's a practical piece of advice. Another one, if you want privacy, get off the grid. You're totally clickbaiting. The title of the article is Selling Your Privacy for a Cheaper Phone, Really a Good Idea. It literally means cheaper phone. Xiaomi equals no privacy, which in the article has nothing to do with that. It's, again, that's completely misreading the entire article and turning her argument into the worst straw man version of her argument. Regulation is BS. Who's regulating the regulators? So we can't have any regulations. None. Corporations should be able to do anything they want. One of the only practical pieces of advice here for Xiaomi users, if you're concerned, you can root your phone and use a custom ROM. But I had to dig pretty far, and that comment is not highly voted on Android Authority. Honestly, I don't give an F. I'm not embarrassed of what I search on the web. I even use Xiaomi's native call recording function in MIUI. It is very useful to be able to record calls. I don't have anything to hide. Come at me, bro. Got a real tough guy there. And I'd like to say that these were the worst comments. It actually continues to descend. It actually continues to get worse from here. I don't believe in privacy, just sell it. It's better to give my data to China than the terrible president that we have now. So this is the problem. So Dave Burns is asking if I think they read the article. They obviously did not. This is the situation we find ourselves in. Where we're trying to have a grown-up conversation about these topics. And this is why I make this appeal to you fine folks out there who regularly tune in. I know for a fact that a good chunk of you listening to this podcast and streaming this in my live chat right now, we do not fully agree on my political stance, your political stance. We're not 100% simpatico, right? I don't think that's a problem. I appreciate that most of you go with me on these conversations because we agree that there are problems, and then we'll probably disagree on what the final, the solutions to those problems should resemble. And that to me is a grown-up conversation. I enjoy our weekly conversations because I'll bring up a situation like Xiaomi recording your user data when you use your browser in incognito mode, and you might have very different feelings about government regulation or corporate responsibility, but we can both agree that's a problem. And that's how we have conversations as grown-ups. Being able to look at the world around us and generally agree something needs to be fixed or addressed. And then we have a debate, and then we have a conversation, and then we break down the parts so that we can try and figure out what part of the problem needs to be addressed to fix the problem. The reason why general consumers don't listen to tech geeks anymore is exactly because of the common thread in an article like this. Completely missing the point, going out of your way to mischaracterize her argument. There's a few of these comments read with just a little hint of some kind of fedora-wearing neckbeard misogyny, because her face is actually shown as the byline, as the editor of this opinion piece. She put her face on this article, and unfortunately that's going to come to bite you in certain tech circles. But trying to make this about everything else except the argument that she's making. And that's not how grown-ups solve problems. And that's not how grown-ups interact with each other. And so this is just another opportunity for me to say thank you to those of you out there who disagree with me, but are joining the conversation in earnest. Because you make my opinion stronger when we hash out these ideas. I actually come to these conversations with some hope and some expectation that when I'm tested by people who actually care to have an earnest conversation, that I walk away either more educated on a topic, or I walk away with a stronger argument for the next time I have to sit down for one of these debates. And it's fun. I enjoy that. I get a thrill out of a good, learned conversation. Sorry. Frankie Tech, you will never see a more angry reaction than from Xiaomi fanboys. I don't see, again, because I don't spend any time with Xiaomi products. I think I used one last year for a very brief hands-on. For me, it's Samsung nights are usually the most toxic, but now it's the OnePlus haters that are leaving the worst comments on my articles. I am not familiar with the Xiaomi collective in any great degree. From Gianmarco Canello, Xiaomi being an internet company means first they have to profit on user data, but this does not mean violating completely the privacy of the users. From Frankie Tech, tribalism is becoming almost stronger than political affiliation in some circles. I mean, man, like people linking their personality and lifestyle to a certain collective of labels. And this is beyond tech. I mean, we're talking people who flip out about shoes, about purses, about cars. And it's getting kind of ugly. Like, I get joy out of this product, so it defines my personality. And if you question that, then you're questioning me. It gets really gross. It's really, really not great. Kyle Ruggles, any thoughts on the Poco F2? Well, I mean, to piggyback on this Android Authority article, I guess you get what you pay for. I wasn't really a huge proponent or advocate of the Poco F1. And again, I kind of look at this like using an iPhone SE versus using a TCL 10 Pro. And some of the rumors we're seeing for the Pixel 4a coming in at a lower price point than maybe we were expecting. I like a well-targeted approach to a certain consumer demographic and hitting a well-rounded collection of specs. And so I know there's been a lot of, a lot of praise for all of the stuff built into this this new Poco, but I'm increasingly less impressed with one or two awesome specs and then saving costs everywhere else on a phone. I'd rather have a mid-ranger chipset and a better collection of well-rounded technology supporting it. And so I'll be curious to see, like, where is it that the Poco phone is making its biggest compromises? Is it all user data and services driven to hit that lower price point? Or, like, I'd rather use a Pixel 3a and get, great camera software on an aged camera sensor and sharper tactile interactions. The little haptic motor in the Pixel 3a is surprisingly decent. Like the whole experience of using that phone is so well targeted for the consumer demographic they're going after and the price point. And I feel like the original Poco was really lopsided. And the Poco F2 looks like it's less lopsided, but they also had to hit a higher price point to get there. So where are these other compromises? But that's just my thought. Steve, Q3 Becker, it's definitely not an all-rounder. Frankie Tech, the Poco F2 Pro is designed to hit every spec checklist that certain markets are obsessed with. And again, it's an enthusiast phone, right? Just like the OnePlus One was. You're gonna win on this chipset, this processor being cheaper than another device. And that doesn't mean you're getting a better overall experience, but if you're that kind of enthusiast who wants all of the horsepower, all of the costs going into one or two categories, do svidaniya. I mean, like, you've got your phone. That is not the reality of the market for even other gadget nerds. I'm not a chipset. I almost used an epithet that I probably shouldn't have. I'm not a chipset snob. That's better. Again, the experience needs to be better rounded out for me than two specs and the cheapest possible no margin price. Because the other thing I value above all else is good competition. So I'm happy that someone who is a specs nerd has their competition, right? They've got their option. But that's not what I'm going to be able to recommend to any of my family and friends. It's not the phone experience that I'm looking for. And I want to see companies grow. And unfortunately, that also means they have to be profitable. So zero margin devices are not long-term benefits to the tech community. If a company can't show profitability after a couple years, that company dies. So anyway, that's the gig. One last little story here. I was surprised that this story kind of sparked as much conversation as it did. This is coming by way of Gadget, written up by Mark DeAngelis. Key researcher behind the Pixel's camera left Google in March. And this article was posted May 13th. The computer imaging expert behind the cameras on Google's Pixel phones left the company in March, according to The Informant. Mark Lavoie met Google's co-founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin as grad students at Stanford after leading a Stanford project that became Google Street View and serving as a consultant for the short-lived Google Glass. The company hired him full-time in 2014. Article just goes on to talk a little bit more about his history, but he left in March. Hopefully Google will be able to develop impressive cameras despite Lavoie's departure. That said, losing such a pioneer in the computational imaging and graphics field could have a substantial impact on one of the Pixel series' best features. So I wanted to kick this off with a question for those of you in the live chat right now. How many of you really believe that this is going to have a huge impact on the next 2 years of Pixel smartphones? Just a yes or no. Just drop me an idea or a comment. I kind of want to read the room here because I kind of feel like this story is being blown up more than it really needs to. From Alice, not me. Pata, probably not. Simon says Hypno. Google's lead has been caught up. Kyle, no impact. Gary the Fireman, I'm genuinely concerned about the future of the Pixel program because a few other people have been moving out of the Pixel team as the full phone. Saeed saying no impact. Frankie saying no impact. Kyle Ruggles, all of the intellectual property that he helped develop is going to remain at Google. Down 704D, no. Gabaletta, maybe not now, but in the future it might. Dave Burns, I'm waiting for the Pixel to be killed by Google. And Ronio266, nothing too drastic. Okay. So here's my feeling. Google is a software services company. Lavoie was instrumental in bringing computational photography to the forefront. We could make some compromises on smartphone camera sensors, and then we could correct for those compromises with just amazingly brutal software. The very first Pixel is an excellent example of this strategy at play. Moving from the Nexus line to the Pixel line, a pretty normal average 12 megapixel sensor without optical image stabilization was delivering HDR photos and stabilized video that no other phone could touch. From the Pixel 1 to the Pixel 4, Apple pretty much caught up. You know, their camera team, their researchers, their tech, it's neck and neck. I would say in ease of use and shutter button HDR, like you only push one button on your phone. You might not even tap to focus. I think the Pixel still delivers the most consumer-pleasing stills, even over the iPhone 11. But Apple has also put just as much effort into polishing up video. And it seems to me that Mark Lavoie, leading the research and development of this camera system, put less emphasis behind video. And that was something that they kind of apologized for on the Pixel 4. Now, we know there are people out there making 4K, 60 frames per second, software stabilized. Yeah, we know all that. But most consumers are going to shoot 1080. So that's what we focused on. And I think they missed it. If they had made that statement the year before, they had solid, the Pixel shoots solid 4K video at 30 frames per second. But if they had made that comment in 2018, I don't think it really would have been a blip, and I think most Pixel people watching the Pixel would have just gone with them on that. Making that statement just as LG was delivering gorgeous software stabilized 4K 60, Samsung was working on decent 4K 60, Apple was talking up the smoothest 4K 60 frame per second extended dynamic range video that a phone could produce. They just missed it. So here you've got this phone with phenomenal consumer pleasing stills. Like, they're just ready for social media from one push of a shutter button, and the video is good. Pixel video is good video. It's not great video. And I feel like this was probably the right time for a change in focus. I think the Pixel is going to maintain a computational photography advantage over most of the smartphone ecosystem. They've got good competition from Apple to keep their team iterating and improving. Hopefully we see some of those improvements more aggressively than what we've seen on the Pixel 4. But now's the right time for the team to pivot. Now's the right time for them to start taking things like video a bit more seriously, because so many people are now primarily capturing their memories in video. I keep a private OneDrive folder for family and friends full of photos and videos of Lex. And now that she's gotten older and she kind of hosts some of her own videos, while I still share photos, I'm sharing a ton of 4K video of her exploits. And a lot of it edited with really cool soundtracks and graphics and transitions and 60 frames per second. Grandma, my mom, watches Lex in 4K 60 on a really nice TV. That's where I feel like this isn't necessarily the doom and gloom. Anything that he's been working on, the next 2 years of Pixel are already on track. So anything that we see in the next 2 years probably has his influence all over it. I think in the short term, this is a non-issue for the Pixel brand. I'm just kind of surprised, this could have a substantial impact. Yeah, it could, but it probably won't, is how I feel. Root Night 5, the Pixel doesn't like it when you use third-party cameras at all. Matt Tyler can attest to that. But if you've got a Pixel 4, Filmic, a recent update to Filmic that came out last week, does deliver true, proper 4K video at 60 frames per second now. I got burned on Open Camera, thinking that Open Camera was doing it, but the Pixel would sort of interrupt Open Camera to prevent you from shooting 60 frames per second. Now, Filmic is doing it for real. Again, I don't know that it's any great game changer for the overall Pixel experience, but it's nice to have. It's nice to finally have 4K 60 on a phone that should have had it native or stock. So, from Saeed, how do you share this 4K to grandma? My mom's fairly tech savvy, and she knows how to use OneDrive. And I put the video on OneDrive, and then she downloads the video and she watches it on her TV. It's not really that hard. Get that there now. And Frankie Tech, I'm still shocked how good the iPhone SE 4K 60 is considering the price point. It's very good, but it's not extended dynamic range. So Apple stops EDR at 4K 30. So it is a little easier to like blow out highlights, but computationally it's very good for smoothing out. The software stabilization is excellent. So again, $399, and we've got phones that are shooting phenomenal high quality video. We should be sharing phenomenally high quality video. Okay, so I want to try and do something here. I don't really do like unboxing videos, and we're getting into the last half hour of the podcast. And for the gadget block, I want to spend a little time, not necessarily just talking up a bunch of phones. You all know I'm working on the OnePlus 8, the OnePlus 8 Pro, the TCL 10 Pro. I'm still circling back to some extended coverage on the LG V60. I've got the iPhone SE. I'm looking forward to Pixel whenever Google can get a Pixel out to consumers. So there are other things happening, and there are other things that I'm trying to cover on the channel here. So I want to spend a minute, or actually the next, I don't know, 25 minutes or so, just showing off a few of the things that are going to be coming to the channel. And I want to see if I can do this in a way where I'm not just sitting here trying to hold products up at my desk. So I'm going to reach over and just move a few things around in the Gadget Lab. And this very well could fail, but you're going to see some color bars here for just a second. And then I'm going to try and walk around this desk, and we'll see if absolute calamity happens, because absolute calamity could potentially happen. Again, I'm doing this live. I have no idea if this is really going to work or not. So now I'm going to stand up very carefully around all of these cables, and I'm going to walk around this big desk, and I'm going to try not to knock over this. Hey, what is up? All right, let me pull up my chat here. I'm using my LG V60, and I'm putting the chat in wide view. So someone say something in the chat, and I'm going to see it on my phone screen. I'm very excited about this. Just crank the screen brightness here. Cough one more, cough, cough. LFA. I am so happy you put out a first look video on the One More dual drivers. This is going to be coming to the channel soon. These are the One More dual driver ANC Pro. They've got magnets. Magnets are fun. Really excited to be playing with a Bluetooth neckband refresh, active noise cancellation. This is going to be a fun video to put together. For Gary the Fireman, cue the leaf blowers, but I'm farther away from the window, so take that, leaf blowers. But yeah, so these are the phones I was talking about. We've got the iPhone SE. I'm going to be doing a round robin, just one very fast look video on Rhino Shield. And so Rhino Shield was kind enough to send me out an iPhone SE care package, because all of my iPhone 8 kit went to Pocket Now. So I didn't have any cases or accessories for the iPhone SE. So this is going to be a video coming probably tomorrow. I think that video is going to be out tomorrow, just looking at some different cases and covers. You know, the OnePluses and my TCL 10 Pro, and like I said, we've got some phone stuff coming out here too. But I wanted to show this one off because power management is increasingly a big deal with gadgets and products and services. Chatty boy, cute hot dogs. So again, sorry, real quick, getting back to Rhino Shield. The first video I ever did on Rhino Shield, they said, hey, what kind of case do you want for your OnePlus? And I said, you've got a case design with wiener dogs wearing sweaters, send me that one, because this is going to look so much cooler on video than just a black case. I'm so tired of like black or white. Give me something else. So they sent one out. They didn't ask when they sent out some iPhone SE stuff, but this is the case that they sent. So I was like, Rhino Shield PR remembers how much I nerded out about the Wiener Dog case, which was absolutely adorable. I was talking about power. Rav Power sent this over. It's a 20,000 milliamp hour battery, which actually I've already taken out of the box, so it's not really much of an unboxing. But this bad boy right here, I'm gonna be really stoked to talk about. So you've got a USB-A, USB-C, and then an actual outlet that you can plug in different devices. It's rated to charge laptops. I wanna see if it can power some small appliances, but it also comes in this killer case, and it's actively cooled. So again, I'm really stoked to be playing with some stuff like this. I've reviewed big batteries before, but they always seem to arrive at capacities that are just a bit larger than, say, being able to fly with them. Not that we're all doing a lot of traveling these days, but I have to believe that eventually we're going to be getting out there again. So this is going to be a really fun review to put together. And then also, because it actually comes in with a decent accessory case, a nice rigid case here, it could be an okay solution for something like an emergency kit. Like you charge this battery up, maybe you just top it off, every couple of months, but then you have something that's sort of safely tucked away in the event of a calamity. And I live in a very earthquake and fire prone state in a city that's actually not too far away from some of the worst fires that we had last year. So if I need to bug out, having a nice big chunky battery, probably not a bad solution for me to be able to take something and run with it. Got a lot of audio stuff coming up. LFA, I want everyone to go and catch the video LFA put out on the One More dual driver ANC Pro. These are probably going to be one of my favorite headphone solutions of 2020 because I love neck bands, and this is a good alternative to people who aren't maybe necessarily looking for true wireless, or they want something that can be a little bit more convenient, just kind of tuck around side of the neck. But in looking at more audio tech, the folks at Creative sent over some kit too. And I love bringing up Creative because someone eventually in my chat will always say, Creative? They're still around? You mean the company that makes sound cards? And they still make sound cards. So I have a pair of Beyerdynamic DT770s. And it's kind of hilarious that those really nice studio grade cans, the phone I listen to them, the thing I connect them to most often to listen to is usually an LG phone. If I plug those DT770s into my really expensive USB audio interface, my really expensive USB audio interface cannot properly power those thirsty cans. So, Creative sent over a little USB audio interface. It's got a whole bunch of really cool line outs. Is the autofocus going to work? Can I do this? Is it working? Autofocus? I don't think the autofocus works on my camera very well. It kind of worked. Super slowly. Good job, Panasonic. So this is the sorry. This is the Sound Blaster X3. Let me just put the box up. Creative, the sound card dudes, they're still around. Sound Blaster X3. I'd be really excited to play with something like this. It's got some of the other spatial audio tweaks. Creative is actually building up this incredible reputation for three-dimensional sound and gaming performance. Their Scout mode is actually pretty incredible, where it hyper-isolates sound effects in space around you. I'm not the biggest fan of that kind of audio manipulation for music, and it's hit or miss on movies. So that to me is going to be one of the big challenges. But already you can fire this up in something that they call direct mode. And that's the first thing I did. You smash the big button, you hit the mode button, and then it just turns orange. And it's like just pure DAC and amp. And at the price point that they're going to be selling this at, I was very impressed with what I was hearing and how well it was able to power some pretty thirsty headphones. So yeah, you want to rotate the dial. It's got a nice, it feels really nice in the hand. You know, the dial isn't made out of disused medical grade syringes. So that's pretty good. It's not like, the dial doesn't feel like it's got sand in the gears. So it feels pretty good. It feels like an evolved primate with like an opposable thumb could operate it. So that's good. That's good design. Frankie Tech is going to bed. Everyone say goodnight to Frankie Tech on the Periscopes. Creative also sent over. I'm going to try and not make these like back-to-back videos. I always get a little antsy when like a company sends me 3 different products and I have to cover them all in like the same time. So there's going to be a little bit of space in between. But let me pull out some kind of bladed weaponry here. And now we'll actually get into something where I'm opening the box. Because they also sent over their SXFi theater headphones. I did not cut the tape correctly for that. I don't do unboxings, by the way. I don't know if you've ever noticed this about me. Come on. Ah, there we go. So let's see what these headphones look like. Wireless headphones, but not Bluetooth. I don't believe they're Bluetooth, but they're super low latency. So they should also be pretty good for gaming applications. Let's get rid of that. And I don't want to read that first. We've got the, ooh, they're really nice. They're chunky, but not too heavy. So let's see, we've got a smooth action dial, no clicks on this dial for controlling the volume. But these are the SXFi Theater. Now, when I reviewed one of the head PR reps at Creative at Newegg, they said internally this was called SexFi. So they would call these their SexFi headphones. And I'm debating, I might actually reach out to Creative PR now to ask, like, are you still calling these things SexFi? Because I don't know that I want to do a whole video on SexFi. But these will have some rudimentary 3D audio technologies. I don't think these are going to be, I don't think they're active noise cancellation. I think this is more a home theater kind of solution. Ooh, oh, that's kind of cute. So again, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this very well, but the ear cups internally pivot. I don't know that I've ever felt that before. So not only do they extend, but there's like an action where they kind of rotate in on the ear cup axis. That's kind of different. I don't know if we put these on. Nice and isolating. I can barely hear myself talk now. I'm going to try not to yell, but I'm going to drink some water here real quick. So what do we got? What do we have here? Read me first. You have to download an app. You can personalize. Oh, that's another cool thing about Creative recently, is they've, you look at something like this and you think, okay, well the Sound Blaster connects to a PC. They have Android, and do they have iOS apps? I don't know if they have. Yeah, they do. They have an Apple App Store app too. These products are built around like full-sized USB, but they do have the capability to work on like phones and tablets, which is pretty crazy. So you get like a USB cable and a charger. You get like a standard cable if you just want to go cable connected. It does have a microphone, so you can turn this into more of a gaming headset. Again, low latency, that kind of wireless protocol, that works really well. And then just a charge cable there too. So it has its own proprietary connector, a USB adapter. So this isn't Bluetooth. That's actually been kind of exciting. I covered Sennheiser and I covered Audio-Technica. I can't get this back into the box. I'm just going to drop this on the floor. Clean it up later. But I'll leave those right there. Pretty. I love getting new headphones. Speaking of what to do with new headphones, I'm going to be kind of curious to play with this. This is from Tilted Nation, and this is the TN Shadow. I'm going to kind of cut these open right here. LFA reviews. It is pronounced SexFi. I don't like that name. I feel like I already have enough problems on my YouTube channel that I don't need to be yelling SexFi for a 5-minute video. So, ooh. Okay, so this is the TN Shadow, and this is a headphone cradle with a mouse arm. So if you take your gaming seriously, you probably have a dedicated spot on your desk where you put your headphones, and then it also does something else too. Like maybe it's a USB hub. This one is it's a three port USB hub. So here I've got my SexFi headphones. We can put those right there. And then this one's also super fancy because of this right here. This little suggestive piece of the headphone cradle that looks like, we'll just say it's suggestive. So what this is for though is you run your mouse cable. So again, if you're elite gamer, you probably have a cabled mouse that's super accurate and high refresh and all those fancy words. So you can keep that mouse cable sort of floating and suspended as opposed to just kind of getting scooched around on your desk or tucked under your keyboard. So let me see. I think I have a power cable here. I don't know. Oh, this is, oh, I need USB. So I need this. We're going to do this first. So this is a USB-A to USB-A. All ready for the review. I'm going to be a little critical about this setup where it needs a USB-A cable. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Simon Says Hypnos, we're going to call this the twanger because you can twang it. I'm going to sit here and diddle the twanger. From Root 5, you could put the SexFi on that shaft. And you're like, I don't like where this is going at all. It's okay, I didn't disappear from reality. I'm only under my desk. All right, now let's see if we can plug this in. And so the base lights up. Does anything else happen? Oh, and we get a cute rim. So we get some Tron lighting accents. So look at that. So you really taking your gaming seriously, even if you're not taking your gaming seriously, and you just want something that looks kind of nice on your desk. TN Shadow, I'm going to be doing a review on this bad boy. It's a full mount. So that'll be kind of a fun way to break up some of my gadget coverage and confuse the YouTube algorithm as to what my channel is about. Because YouTube has no idea what to do with me. From Ellis, explicit unboxing right now. When I upload this video to YouTube, I'm gonna have to say it's not all ages friendly. And lastly, this is a company I haven't checked out in a while. This really isn't my like main scope of coverage. I'm not very good at digging into, I completely missed the seam on this. Let me focus on what I'm doing while I operate a knife. My Boy Scout leader from when I was a kid would probably be very disappointed in how I'm handling a blade right now. DJ Audio, stupid sexy Flanders. So I did a review on one of their products years ago, and this is a company called Brino. And Brino makes a very, very specific category of products in time-lapse cameras. And not just like, oh, you kind of want to take a cute time-lapse video. You can do that on your phone. These are practically, or I actually do have solutions for it, but these are industrial use time-lapse cameras. And I had one of their older Brinos, which came in like this hardcore waterproof shock mount. And then one of their other products, do I have it out? I don't think I have it out. They make this great base. So it's got a camera thread on it, and it's just a puck. And you've probably seen it in a few of my videos. But you can program how quickly it rotates. So I've done it for things like I put a phone on it and I have it go really fast, and then that looks really cool. Like I've got a Lazy Susan that can rotate for a video. But you know, if you want a sort of a panning shot and you want it over a long period of time, Brino makes this amazing base that can work for weeks on like a AA battery. I did not cut this plastic open very well. Dave Burns, joke's on you, Juan. The YouTube algorithm already doesn't want to help your channel. and Root Night. The YT algorithm is going to drop kick this video into oblivion. Oblivion, I tell you. It's oblivious. So this is their newest. What is this called? This is the TLC 2020. Some tender love and care in the year 2020. We could all use a little more TLC this year. And let's get this opened up here. We can kind of hold that up there. So this is that new camera. That looks pretty cool. It's a lot more compact than the last camera I reviewed and I took a look at. So you've got like a little camera thread on the bottom. It's this little base right here. And I think this is still running on, I can't see where the battery compartment is, but I think this is still running on just, there it is. So what do we have? 2 AA's. So 2 AA's, you control it either through a couple buttons on the back. I think it will also connect over Bluetooth. And then you set it up somewhere and you walk away for a couple weeks. And then you come back and you check out the footage that you got. And you just got that little cover right there. And this is the Brino TLC 2020. So the funky thing about this is this camera's, I think, fairly new. Trying to do a review on this will literally take me probably a couple weeks. So if I'm gonna collect footage on time lapse, it takes a long time to shoot time-lapse footage. And I kind of want to do like, where it does like a panning shot while it's doing a time-lapse, which means I need to get that base wherever I put it. I have no idea where I put that thing. It's like one of my favorite accessories for getting this kind of stuff done. It's so handy, and I have no idea where it is now. So this will be on the channel coming up probably beginning of June, middle of June. I have no idea how long it's going to take me to review this. So I wanted to have a little fun. Yeah, I think we've got, we're wrapping up this podcast. We've got about 10 or 15 minutes left. I think I'll go back to the desk, but just a sneak preview on some additional content that's going to be coming to the channel. I am writing a script for another hashtag 2020 hearing video talking about different types of ear tips. So not just, oh, I tried using in-ear earbuds one time and they didn't work. There are other solutions that we can look at, like a rounded flange, shorter flange, double and triple flange, foam, and custom molds. So there are all kinds of different ways that you can clean up earbuds. I really don't like when my channel is nothing but phone review after phone review after phone review after phone review. And now let's take a look back at a phone that's somewhat SEO popular so that I can keep my metrics higher. It's not super fun. So when we head back to the desk, this is where the calamity might happen again. So let's see if I can switch these inputs in real time, and we'll wrap up the show. But if you guys have questions, like as I'm walking back to the desk, if there's anything you want to talk about, start hitting the live chat, and we'll wrap up with just a little loose Q&A. I think it'll be fun. I'm very anxious about walking back to my desk. Let's turn that back on. Ba-bam. Let's see. Hey, I made it back. Let me move this lamp. As much as I love having like a halo of lights behind my head, it's not the kind of show I'm running here, folks. So thank you for joining me on that little field trip. This was always one of the goals of Gadget Lab 3.0, was to make this space a little bit more modular. So that was a fun experiment. Thank you for going on that ride with me. Adichie Anil, hashtag some tiptoes in his office guy. So if you caught the tragedy of a live stream when I was trying to unbox the TCL 10 Pro, I knocked over a lamp, and the lamp that I just moved over my shoulder here is a new lamp because I busted that lamp. So yeah, as much as I'm trying to make this space more modular, and I can do more in this space than I could in Gadget Lab 2.0, I still got to be careful, because apparently my Faraday cage of a rear end is pretty good at breaking my lighting. Matt Tyler, question, why do you not unbox things? Answer, because of what we just watched. Nerd. All right. Vazikos 8, am I wrong to use in-ear monitors for gaming on my PC? You're not wrong. I would very seriously recommend on any type of IEM usage that you're giving yourself sort of regular checks to see how loud you're listening. But nah, I mean, like, you use what's most comfortable. Use what's most comfortable. Gaming should be a settle into it kind of activity. And there's a reason why in-ear monitors are used for performers. It's because you're probably looking at some aggressive or extended use. So I think that's a totally appropriate application of that audio tech. Aditya Anil. Okay, this is an interesting question. Could you help identify a proper target audience for the TCL 10 Pro? Having former flagships at the price made TCL a tough sell for me. Okay, so in my video for the TCL 10 Pro by the benchmarks, I also wanted to show how a purpose-built mid-ranger is often having to compete against last year's flagships. So do I have, oh, my TCL 10 Pro is over here. Cool thing about using a lav is that I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm pointing my face at the microphone for y'all to hear me, even though right now you're getting an out-of-focus shot of my ear, which is pretty gross. I have to admit, that's terrible podcasting. I have no idea where my LG G8 is. It's not on my desk. So we're just gonna have to go with this just with the TCL 10 Pro. So here's the deal. The TCL is making an argument for a purpose-built $450 phone, but you can often find an LG G8 completely new, not a refurb, not a used phone, still sealed, for around $450. This phone is going to lose bad for the heaviest lifting tech use. An LG G8 just completely scrubs the floor with this phone for 4K video rendering and for graphics intense gaming. No contest. And then also headphone jack to headphone jack. LG is the top game for headphone jacks. That being said, depending on your usage, maybe you might appreciate having a larger screen with a less intrusive notch. Maybe you might appreciate having more camera sensors to play with, like the ultra low light camera sensor or the 64 megapixel camera sensor that's here, which is very similar to the 64 megapixel sensor that's on the LG V60. One of the fair criticisms of a phone like the LG G8 was that it had an average battery size, right? You know, it wasn't, I don't think it was too small, but it was just sort of what you would need to make it through a day on a decently powerful premium smartphone. This phone has a battery that's like 30% larger than what's in an LG G8. So I feel while we talk about one specification like performance, and performance is absolutely going to dominate for a year-old flagship, we might be missing some conversations about other more well-rounded use. Maybe you want a phone that can be a universal remote for your TV again. LG G8 can't do that. This phone has an IR blaster and you can use it as a universal remote for your TV. Maybe you want a slightly larger screen device and you're now having to play different pricing games with Galaxy S10s and the LG V50s out there. I think there's still a strong argument for a purpose-built mid-ranger that is now looking at a slightly different kind of use than what you would have gotten from a phone like the G8. Matt Tyler, imagine Juan trying to unbox a TV. LFA reviews, if loving good audio is wrong, then I don't want to be right. Arthur Lee, 525, I'm starting off with reviewing phones on my YouTube channel. My question is, could you give me some of your magic? I don't have a lot of magic. I can try and help out. I'll join you on your channel. We can chat. I don't know how much attention or benefit I'm going to be able to provide your channel, but keep reaching out to other content creators, collaborate, it's all good. And then join communities like maybe our glowing rectangles where we can help celebrate and promote people who are doing good stuff. JJ4884, did you get any software updates on the G8? So the G8 beat the OnePlus 7 Pro 5G to Android 10, but my G8, which is the T-Mobile flavor, seems to be stuck on the January security update. But yeah, LG's major operating system upgrade game was very strong for the G8 and for the V50. We're now seeing the G8X finally start trickling out an Android 10 update. It's been pretty weak, but the V40 also just recently, I think, got updated to Android 10 too. Oops, I just turned the camera on while I'm holding this phone near my crotch. Probably not something I want to do in public. Let's see. Larry David. That's a good name. I like that name. Are there any phones with only a selfie shooter? I'm so vain. No. I mean, there shouldn't be. I mean, seriously, if you're really vain, if you really are vain, you need to learn how to shoot rear camera selfies. Practice. If you are that vain and you want to capture your likeness in the best possible quality, rear camera is the way to go. And then it also looks really trick when you get the hang of a phone and you're just like, pop. And people can see like you're framing the photo, but it's off the rear camera. Don't be one of these normies. Come on. Don't be a filthy casual. Oh, let me take a selfie with the most inferior camera on my phone. Oh, doesn't that look good? I'm so happy to share that with social media. No. You're better than that. Have some respect for yourself. Jim72165, I got a renewed Note 10 Plus for $620. That's not a bad price. Again, as LG prices tend to plummet a bit more. Steve, now it's a good time to be reminded that one has to wear pants. Gary the Fireman, you might want to play with this. If you get a clear case, you can put a mirror on the back of your phone. Like you could put, like here on this TCL I'm using to demonstrate, clear case, you could probably put something a bit more reflective right there. But when you get really good, so the phone that's actually, okay, this is nerdcore. Let me turn around here. So, phones have been getting larger image sensors, right? The LG V60 has a 1/1.7 inch sensor. I don't think you really need to know the math, but it's important for this. This is the OnePlus 8 Pro. The OnePlus 8 Pro has an even larger image sensor than what's on the Galaxy S20 and the LG V60. It's a 1/1.4 inch sensor. It's closing in on the largest sensor that Huawei sells in their phones. What's nuts is even in bright daylight, this sensor and lens is now large enough that I can see a silhouette of my outline when I do a rear camera selfie in the lens and sensor of the phone. So I'm not even trying to play a game like, well, maybe if my face is reflecting off of this bender strip right here, I can literally frame looking into the sensor and just see, is my silhouette about where I would want it to be in the camera frame. That's nuts. And it works so well. I'm telling you, this is the easiest phone I've used yet for getting a handle on about where should I hold the phone, about how far should I put it, what angle should, it's like pop, selfie, done. And it's on a larger sensor. So like the quality on them have been surprisingly good. There are so many people out there talking trash about the OnePlus 8 Pro being a more expensive phone. And I have to believe that they are not good at camera. They are not good at tech if they're completely overlooking some of those advantages where you would want to pay more for higher quality stuff. Crazy. Crazy. Burn notice, I got my V40 at Best Buy for $400. That's a good price for a V40. From JJ, I'm thinking about getting a portable DAC. I got the promo for Tidal. Again, depending on what kind of phone you're using, if you're using Tidal, use a higher quality source. Oh, you guys want me to take a selfie with the, hold on, you get this, do that, you get the volume rocker right about there, pop that, open this. I was talking while I was doing it, and there you go. Although this camera doesn't autofocus. So, I mean, like, that's framed right where I want it, and that was fast. You know, it's a selfie in my office. I don't know how that gets any better. I'll do it in landscape. I mean, that seems to me like it's centered in focus and about a reasonable likeness of what I would take a picture of. And it's that immediate where you can see how you're framed in the back of the phone. Is that what you guys wanted to see? Because, like, I'm telling you, it's that easy. It was faster for me to do that than it would have been to open the camera app and then swap to the selfie lens and line up the exact same shot than just double tapping the camera sensor. And even though this is a pretty decent selfie camera, that's blurry. I was talking while doing that off of the OnePlus 8 Pro has a decent selfie camera as you compare selfie cameras. But while I'm moving and talking, this is blurry. That's not as good. So then I, I have to unlock the phone. Come on. And then you just go one over, and that photo is way better. And it's sharper, and it's clearer, and it's framed exactly the same. I'm not magic. This isn't that hard. Okay. You all trying to test my skill? Come on now. Come on now, son. I thought you knew. Matt Tyler, you have to use those pictures for the review now. Sorry. From Hani Hamamed, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce your last name. Baoud? Do you prefer using the OnePlus 8 Pro instead of the Pixel 4 XL, and why? So, I think if we're talking about photography, the Pixel 4 XL is going to be way easier for a lot of people that only hit the shutter button. Google's computational game is super strong, and OnePlus's camera app is still a bit klutzy. I continue to find their interface a bit clunky. It's very unfamiliar. I can't always get a good handle on what the exposure is going to do when you tap to focus on a part of your scene. But lately I've really been enjoying the OnePlus 8 Pro. The sensor advantage when it comes to the more photographic elements of an image, of image capture, are noticeably better. The regular depth of field blur from the lens starts to approach the lowest levels of what the Pixel's portrait mode delivers with software background blur. I was just messing around. My car battery died, and I took a photo saying this is what my Saturday's looking like, and I'm holding a pair of jumper cables. There is a natural focus fall off where my engine is out of focus by focusing on my hands, 2 feet less above my engine. And that's all sensor performance. That's the sensor and the lens being so much larger that you arrive at more cinematic video and more photographic stills than what last year's average sized camera sensors could deliver. So, I mean, there are other perks too, like it's just a more powerful chipset. OnePlus has been doing a decent job of optimizing. I just got another major update on the OnePlus 8 and the OnePlus 8 Pro. Performance has been great. And it's new, it's the new shiny, it's the new fun, it's the new fluffy. But I really feel like the Pixel 4 XL got a really bad rap last year. I feel like that phone got way more hate than it actually deserved. And it still managed to be the phone, outside of LG's, of course, the second place phone, the phone that had my SIM card in it the longest, aside from my LG G8. So I really feel like if the folks who used that phone and really lived with it had a completely different experience than the people who wrote their review script based on all of the leaks that happened for that phone before it came out. From Burn Notice, double tap volume rocker doesn't launch the camera app. I've always, I would say for the last 2 years, I've switched over to power button. So some phones will do both. I think I can set the OnePlus to do both. I know the LG, I switched the volume rocker to launch screen off notes. So on the V60, I double tap the volume rocker and I can write notes on the screen, kind of like a Galaxy Note. So yeah, I've kind of taken, just for my own familiarity, I've taken all phones to using double tap on the power button. Matt Tyler, Juan plus LG Pro Xperia Apple shill guy. From Alice Bockley, I have the Pixel 4 XL. It is awesome. Gary the Fireman, I still love my 4 XL. Simon says, Hypno, other than the battery life, it seemed grand. Actually, the Pixel 4 XL, I thought it had an adequate battery for just sort of a day of use, right? You're right at the limit. And often with my Pixel 4 XL, I would kind of cheat a little top off midday. But it wasn't hard disabling some of the eye candy on the screen or toning down the radar. How often that phone wakes up is actually kind of incredible, how well the battery lasts. Let's see this right here. And Root Night 5, does Filmic add microphone controls for video on Android? No, I mean, very rudimentary VU meters. And what you get is the ability to customize. Actually, let me just make sure I'm not talking out my butt here. We'll fire this up right now in Filmic. We're doing it live, folks. We're doing it live. Where did Filmic go? Do I really not have Filmic installed on this phone? Oh, there it is. F for Filmic. So when I go to audio, yeah, it's super rudimentary. So you can kind of select, camera microphone, but there's nothing else to select because this phone doesn't have a headphone jack. You can control the sample rate if you want 44.1 or 48 kilohertz. You can do video only, which I'm not sure why you would want to do that, but you can disable the audio. And then they have a voice processing filter, which I think sounds a little warbly. Kind of like what I don't like about the LG G8's noise reduction. So you don't really have, I mean, you've got some interesting controls in there. Actually having the ability to swap the sample rate is very helpful when you're working on different project timelines. But it's not like a V60 where you actually have audio controls for gain and filtering and having a compressor or a limiter on there. It's very different. Aditya, F for Filmic? I have a lot of apps on my phone, so I had scrolled just past it and I was going back through this is the plight of being a tech reviewer, is your app page just kind of keeps going on forever. So you scroll a little too quickly with your 120 hertz refresh rate display, and it's easy to get lost. Larry David, how much better are the cameras in the V60 versus the G8X? I'm actually going to cop out on that because I have a super deep dive review on the LG V60 on patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. And let me get this out of the way. And JJ4884, do any of the higher portable DACs have diminishing returns? So I'm actually not as well versed on a lot of these, like there's the Dragonflies and High Diz is another one that seems to be pretty popular. I'm not as well versed on those. I haven't had a lot of listening experience, but having used the FIOs, it's usually less a question of diminishing returns and more, you start paying more for ancillary features like better Bluetooth audio support. And so you get a cabled DAC that also has Bluetooth and can support LDAC. So it becomes a more well-rounded convenience gadget. But then you start to lose out on things like having a more powerful amp. And that's something that I think really registers with a lot of headphone users. When you plug your headphones into an LG, and you've got some really thirsty headphones like my DT770s. These are the 250 ohm Pro DT770s. My LGs have zero issue powering those headphones. My super expensive Focusrite audio interface, I can turn the headphone dial all the way up, and I'm just getting to a slightly above comfortable listening volume. I mean, they need some oomph, and it's hilarious that an LG phone, no issues. Yeah, let's drive these headphones. You want to blow out your hearing? You can do it on 250 ohm headphones. Some of these portable DACs seem to tap out before you get to that point. So I guess maybe in terms of diminishing returns, if you've got, the 770s are only $160. And I don't mean to make that sound as snobby as it does, but, about the same price as some AirPods, right? You could have pro studio grade cans that are industry staples. Like they've been around for generations of recording engineers. And you can power them really well from an LG phone. That might be one of the issues that you run into with some other type of portable DAC is super high quality audio is great, but will you always have the amp to drive that high quality audio signal into more demanding speakers or headphones? So it's that's about as close as I can get to answering because I haven't really used any of the Dragonflies or the High Diz. Let me get this out of the way here. Root Knight 5, theoretically LG DAC caps out at 600 ohms, but I haven't tested anything that hungry, and I really wouldn't, I don't think that would be a good listening experience at that stage. But that amp, especially between like 100 ohm and 300 ohm, baller. Like it is not hampered at all. And I have to turn the volume down, which is insane. So I feel like that's probably as good a place as any to wrap this up. I had one critical thing to say about an LG phone, so we should end the podcast with me only saying nice things about LG. But thank you for going on a little field trip with me. Thank you for chatting out some of these news stories with me. And again, as always, thank you so much for your continued support and your engagement. Helping out content creators that deserve more attention and being a part of this community beyond just passively consuming the content that people produce. So, this is something I brought up on the All About Android podcast. It's something I've been saying recently on my podcasts. But if your family and friends maybe haven't always appreciated the help that you've given them in being good tech neighbors or good tech citizens, I would like to say thank you. Thank you for being a part of this community and participating in this community to try and help people out. Tech has become the most unifying force we have today. I'm having video calls with family and friends and trying to find ways to watch movies together and play games together, and it's all through this use of technology. We're leaning on this stuff harder than ever before. So your contributions, whether they're properly acknowledged or not, are greatly appreciated. I thank you again. You are doing a great service to your local communities in being a good resource. So I want you all to have a fantastic week with your technology. I want you to do awesome with your technology. I want you to be awesome with your technology. And I'll catch you back here next week for another Monday morning news chat show on the SGGQA podcast channel. Take care. Stay safe. It's still crazy out there. Don't take any risks that you don't need to. And I want to see all of your usernames back here next week so that we can hang out again. I love you all. Be well.